David, thanks for being here. We want to have a conversation about reopening the nursery. And so hopefully this will benefit everyone who's able to listen.
Last week, you mentioned during the service that the nursery is going to be reopening. What's that going to look like?
Yes, on May the 2nd, we're planning to resume our ministry to young families by providing that staffed nursery once again for the younger children, infants and toddlers. During COVID, we've been forced to operate a little differently. So we had everyone in the auditorium and did not have children in the nurseries, but that format really isn't necessary anymore. So we're looking forward to starting our children's nursery again.
What do you see as the benefit of a church nursery?
Well, I suppose I could find benefits for everyone. First of all, starting with the children. It seems like children would benefit from less frustration, trying to be still and quiet for an hour, hour and a half, long service, which may be beyond their ability at the point in time. Secondly, I think there's a benefit to parents. It gives them that few moments of respite where they can fully engage with the worship service. And then third, I would say the whole congregation benefits since there are fewer distractions for everyone.
Okay, so going back to something you said earlier about a staffed nursery, what does that mean?
That means we would provide an approved group of women to care for those infants and toddlers in the nursery rooms. At this point, we're not planning to utilize men in the nursery. I appreciate the men who are willing to serve with their wives in the nursery, but for now, we're going to ask them to manage the rest of the family in the service and allow the wives to serve in the nursery. We've considered a number of policies from various different churches around the country. Many of them do not use men. Some of them do. But our nursery committee recommended that we restart with women workers, and their desire was to try to recruit enough volunteers so that a woman might only have to work once every 2 months, perhaps. Now, to help with that volunteer base, we're also including the help of teenage girls. So any of our teens, well, basically 12 years old and up, would be able to sign up to work in the nursery. And we're planning to do background checks on everyone who hasn't had them yet. And we'll also be offering some basic training sessions from time to time to keep everybody on track. Now, regarding the actual experience on a Sunday, it's going to be pretty typical of a church nursery. Bring your child to the counter where you can sign them in and communicate any information that would be helpful to the workers. And then enjoy the worship service and hopefully promptly after the service, pick up your child. And if there's any concerns in the meantime, the nursery workers will gladly text you right on your cell phone. And one difference would be in the infant nursery. We obviously invite moms to come in and care for their children, changing them, feeding them, nursing them in that infant nursery and the attached nursing mother's room.
So by reopening the nursery, then, does that imply that children are not welcomed in the worship service?
We made a decision probably in the first year of the church, philosophically, to include children in the worship service rather than offer a separate children's church time or a children's service. That's because we think children can learn to sit still and be quiet, governed by just a few words from a parent or even just that look that a parent would give. But until they reach that point, we think it's healthy and right to commit building space, to commit budget dollars, to commit our volunteer time and energy to provide a nursery for those growing and training years.
So having a nursery then is very much on purpose. It's not just a convenience that someone might expect.
Right. A nursery, we would say, is very much on purpose. So let me anchor our idea, our philosophy of a nursery ministry to a Bible principle. In Philippians 2, 3, and 4, we come face to face with this principle of consideration. The Bible says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each one of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." So when you come to a worship gathering, you need to be considerate of the rest of the congregation. You need to consider everyone else's needs above your own. For example, if someone were coughing or sniffling constantly in this allergy season, you would appreciate them slipping out into the lobby until the matter was cleared up. We might think of this as wedding or funeral etiquette. The unchurched folks might call this movie theater etiquette. The point is, you don't allow yourself or your child to disrupt what everyone has come to focus on. Frankly, at times, our services are really loud. And to be fair, COVID has forced some of that upon us as we're all in the same room. But the other side of fairness is, parents, sometimes you don't realize how loud your child is or for how long. So some of the older ears are struggling to hear the prayers or parts of the sermon. Some are being helped by hearing aids. Others are being helped by some audio devices connected to our sound booth. But at times, even some of the younger, healthier ears are struggling to hear, and those folks are struggling to focus throughout the service. So I'd like us to do better. I don't want this to be a rebuke, but rather just a call to consideration. I just want to raise our awareness so that we're striving to have that mind of Christ in Philippians 2 where we're trying to serve others. So please be aware of how your actions affect those around you, really in any context, but specifically applied to this discussion of young children in the worship gathering.
So thinking about this principle of considering others, what might that look like practically?
I think it could mean leaving your child in the nursery, signing them in, trusting folks there to take care of them and participate in the worship service. Another option would be taking them out of the service if they're easily noticed by others around you because of their motion or the noise they're making. If your infant is babbling happily or fussy, perhaps needs to be changed or fed or nursed, please utilize the rooms that we have designated for those very purposes. I think it's fair, and we probably understand this, that no matter how much people love children in our church, they may not necessarily want to hear them eating and drinking and cooing during the worship service.
So infants and toddlers can be left in the nursery in order to be considerate of others in the worship service. What if someone says, "I think my child is my responsibility, and I don't want to pass that on to someone else"?
Well, I would say I really appreciate anyone taking personal responsibility in our day and age. So I appreciate your spirit there. I would just maybe add on to that thought. Please be aware that you also have a responsibility toward all the other people in the worship service.
So maybe I don't have children that are nursery age, but I have young children still who are restless or loud. What should they do? Do they just leave a parent home with the kids?
No, I wouldn't want people to have to miss more of the fellowship or the worship. That happens enough when little kids are sick. So let me offer two thoughts here. Number one, work at training your children at home. By that I mean don't wait until Sunday in the service to try to teach your child that no really means no. So get good at this at home and then try it in the service. Secondly, utilize a family room for training. And this is a fantastic tool for parents because I'm not talking about your family room at home. I'm talking about several of our classrooms here at the church, right off the lobby, classroom number 101 and 102. are both equipped with monitors which show the live video and play the audio of the service. So you can sit in these rooms with your child and teach this increasing level of stillness and quiet. Now, it isn't a place for your child to run free and talk loud and play. It's a place for discipleship, a place for training. You may have them sit at a table and draw quietly and listen, but you're teaching them a level of stillness and quiet. With that design of the family room, it is a place where there may be distractions to others in that room, but the net gain is twofold. One, consideration of the congregation at large, and two, intentional teaching of the child. So please, from now on, consider how you will intentionally utilize these two rooms to help train your children for participating in corporate worship.
What is a good age for a child to sit in church?
Well, the age would probably vary. So let me speak to some general benchmarks, perhaps. I think a child should understand and respond to a parent's no, or a parent's shh, or just that touch on the knee that you may remember if you were a child sitting in church. If your child can generally quickly respond to you putting an end to something, then certainly they're at that age where they can be sitting through the service. They should be able to sit on a seat in relative peace and quiet. We all understand children are going to fidget. In our nursery structure, we're basically saying that a child would graduate out of nursery care at 4 years old. So perhaps in preparation for that, you could consider having your child sit through some of the service before they hit age 4. And when you sense they've reached their limit, maybe you could head to the nursery or the family training room. I know with our kids, we worked at making it through the first half of the service, and then they would slip out before the sermon. And then somewhere between 3 and 4, we would stretch them a little bit further so they could make it through the entire service with a mint or two.
What if all this talk of nursery and parenting children in worship seems challenging?
And it probably does. It's not an easy process, but it doesn't need to be tedious either. I would encourage you to talk to other folks at church, listen to other voices, talk to people who have raised kids and know the struggles of helping them sit through church services. There are some in our church who have kind of discipled their children and trained them to sit through Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night services all in a week. So there are some veteran parents who have done this before. Dads, talk to older men in the church who have been through this. And don't leave your wife alone to think this through. Don't neglect your role in leading your family. I'm not saying dads have to be the one to take a child out to the training room. I'm just saying dads, work with your wife and lead in this process. Moms, young moms, talk to older women in the church. God had Paul tell Titus to ready the older women to teach the younger women something about raising their children. So follow that biblical pattern. And let me also add here that we now have a committee of women who are going to serve our congregation by leading this nursery ministry on behalf of the elders. Emily Heaney, Caitlin McClurg, and Charity Moorhead have all volunteered to serve our church in this way. So should you have any questions or input, please communicate with them. If they don't have the answer, then they'll bring that to the elders. But they are choice servants engaged in our body and willing to help in this ministry. So please talk to them and let them serve you and your family. I wish I could answer every question that's coming to your mind, but this is designed to lay out a couple of big ideas and let the conversation continue. So let me boil it down to 3 points. Number one, we want to serve you with a nursery, and that'll be opening May the 2nd. Second, we want to offer 2 family training rooms. Multiple families could meet in a single room. They are available this week. They've kind of been available. We've been trying the idea out. It's worked well for some parents. Please take advantage of that even this week. And number 3, we are doing this in order to help you live out the truth of Philippians 2, being considerate of those around you. This isn't about parenting styles. This isn't about who emphasizes family more. It's not about having bad kids or good kids. This is simply about being considerate of those around you and not distracting them from the reason we've gathered together. So we offer the nursery and the family training rooms so that you can be considerate of others while teaching your children the responsibility, the privilege, and the value of worshiping our great God.